Well, there's one team that he liked to punish a lot. We're going to have to talk about it.
We might have been on the receiving end on some of those.
Yeah, what is up with you and the Kansas City Chiefs? Now, you mentioned before you're a big fan of Priest, Dante Hall, everything they got going on over there. But dude, was there a moment in time when you were watching Priest do his thing and you were on the opposite sideline that maybe just for a second you were like, Coach, put me in at DB, I got this?
No.
No. Not at that level. You're going to stay at running back.
Well, let's get a coaching fit check. Clinton, are you more of like a Tom Landry trench coat, fedora? Are you like a Mike Ditka sweater or a Bill Belichick ripped off sleeves on a hoodie? What's your coat?
I'm Bill Belichick.
You are?
Yeah, give me the keys to the kingdom, 'cause I came, I saw, I conquered it all.
All right, guys, so welcome back to the home stretch presented by 365. I'm your host, Priest Holmes, my co-host, Mark Seaman. What's going on, Mark?
I'm sorry you have to say that name out loud every time, but I appreciate you doing so.
It's all good.
I'm happy to be here, man. I'm excited because we've got someone very special joining us on this episode. But before we get to our guest, just one word answer. What's your mood right now? How you feeling?
I'm stoked.
Stoked. That's a good one. All right, now I got to come up with, I'm psyched.
You psyched? I'm stoked. The reason why is because it's nothing like having another running back in the house. You know?
When are we going to get these kickers on? I gotta get some kicker love out there. No kicker.
We'll do that soon.
Is this a no kicker show?
No, it's all good.
Okay.
We don't discriminate.
We do have an amazing running back that's joining us here. In fact, this person was the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, two-time Pro Bowler, also a BCS national champion with the University of Miami, and a member of the Washington Commanders 90 greatest of all time to put on that uniform. And he's the one and only Clinton Portis. How you doing, Clinton? Welcome to the show.
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. How y'all doing?
Doing good.
Yeah, we're good. Well, we're stoked and we're psyched. And those will be our names going forward. So you can't call him Priest or me Mark. It's stoked and psyched.
Clinton, so how you feeling today? What you got? One word for us. How you feeling today?
Ecstatic.
Ecstatic.
There we go. I like it. All right. There's so much to talk to him about. You know, we could talk about, I don't know, a game where he scored 5 TDs. I don't know. That's kind of a thing he did. Yeah. But let's turn on the Wayback Machine for just a second. And now that you are where you are in your life, Clinton, how would you describe yourself as a high schooler? Like, if you look back, like, you know what you know now, how would you describe yourself back then? Who was Clinton Portis in high school?
The X Factor. I did it all. I played corner, wide receiver, running back, safety, whatever was needed. It was just like being the X Factor. You know, you look at today's game, and a lot of kids can't go left to right. You know, it's like I specialize on the right side in the slot. You know, and to be able to think about my day or my high school time, it was wherever the best went, that's where we went, offensive or defensive. So to be able to say I was a player that was movable, that could play anywhere, it was just one of those, you know, the times. You know, I think everyone talk about kids and saying they're more athletic than we were, or they, you know, the kids look, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. But when it comes to play, I think it's hard to find our generation.
Yeah, Clinton, when I go back and think about what did I do back then when I was growing up, I remember one thing in particular is just I had the ability to make people miss. Now, in terms of trying to jump into other positions, I tried that one time in high school. I think I was a freshman. I tried to line up as a free safety, and I was thinking that, you know, the ball is getting thrown right to the receiver running the 9 route. And I'm thinking, you know what? I'm in my back pedal. You know, it's not going to go over my head, but I'm backpedaling, and then I'm starting to turn to run, and the receiver's running up the field. And what I'm thinking, the ball is just going to drop down right about 50 yards out where I'm at. The ball just keeps going. It just keeps going. And I go from looking at the quarterback to looking at the ball, then looking at the receiver, and then touchdown, you know. And that was the final time I ever lined up as a DB. So that had to speak something special about you, man. Your ability to be able to play both sides of the ball, different positions. What was it about you growing up that allowed you to get into that space?
Well, for me at an early age, I was a little taller than you were. So I started out as a DB and switched to running back. So I started out as a DB. You know, I thought I was going to be the next Aeneas Williams, prime time. At that time, you know, those were the cornerbacks that you kind of went out and emulated. So to me, it was between me and my best friend, like who the baddest, you know, and then my coach made the switch my junior year, and I had never played running back a day in my life. And he was like, "Yeah, man, I can't throw it to you, so I'm gonna hand it to you." I'm like, "Bro, I don't play running back." It ended up being a great decision. Even for colleges, everyone was recruiting me at DB, you know, and for me, it was just like I was starting to fall in love with the running back position. As you know, all the backs were bigger. It was Bettis, Jamal Anderson, Jamal Lewis, like all the big backs were taking over. So I'm thinking, I'm like 165, 170. I don't want to tackle them people. So I learned to make people miss and run past them.
That's right. I know that's pretty special.
That's a good reason to switch. I don't
Yeah.
want to get hit by those guys.
Well, not only that, just to have the ability to make people miss and then
Yeah.
also play in the different positions like that, that speaks volumes in terms of his talent. I know I had a chance, of course, as he went on with his career to see his talent. A number of Sundays we faced off and had a chance to know what his ability was. But I'll tell you what, when I think back about some of the days that we've had as a player, and not to get too far in front of that, you know, your talent speaks for itself. And I think that now that you're coaching, how does that impact the guys in terms of how, you know, growing up and what it was to be able to play different positions? How do you, you know, keep that conversation going with your guys?
I mean, you know, I think for me, the best coaches that I were around were honest. They were players, coaches. They were honest coaches, whether they were chewing you out or, you know, giving you that appreciation. It was like a tough love. So I try to carry the same thing. You know, I rely heavy on my running backs coach from college, Coach Dunny Solinger. Rely heavy on guys that played the position. You know, I would show my guys your film. I would show them the Damian film, Edge, Freddie T. Like, you talking about being a back. I don't care what's your size, where you from. Here go the backs to watch, you know. And just to, you know, bring up the past, those games that we played against you all were probably, you know, having you and Dante Hall on that sideline like ignited me. It did something to me. Like, it was a challenge. And I didn't get the opportunity to stop either one of you, but it was just a challenge of whoever had the best game out of us gonna win. So if we go back and we look at any of those games, I think my moves were quicker, they were more precise. You know, just because of I knew what you all were doing. So it was going into the game, it was just that extra mindset. I gotta do above and beyond, although I knew I had teammates that we could count on too. It was just, when I get this opportunity, man, I got to be more exciting than Dante Hall. I got to have more yards than Priest, like whatever it's going to take to get us this W. So that was like one of my favorite challenges, going against you twice a year, having that luxury, and you all having the number one offense. And I just used to sit and look at your O-line like, wow, here comes the toss sweep. And lo and behold, here it comes. You out there.
Yeah, T. Rich and I, we talked about the toss crack. You know, that was one of our favorite plays, you know. For you as a runner, what did you specialize in terms of what did you like to do? Did you like to run the perimeter, or did you like getting inside the A and the B gap downhill?
Well, in Denver, you know, it was the scheme was it was like you've been an amazing scheme. In Denver, it was the same. Because a couple years later, I got that opportunity to be in the scheme that you came out of, and I hated it. I hated all the shifting. I hated the run from receiver on the opponent's sideline and line up in the backfield or run toss to our sideline. Like, that was too much movement for me. And I'm thinking, like, shit, Priest had to be in outstanding shape. Priest and Larry Johnson had to be in outstanding shape to do all this shifting and then come and run the toss back the other way. So for me, I loved outside zone, inside zone in Denver, but it switched when I got to Washington because it was like downhill. You know, in the AFC, it was scheme oriented. So we hit daylight, it was off to the races. In the NFC, it was like I see 11 people in front of me, and all 11 know I'm getting the ball. All 11 coming downhill is just collision based.
Yeah, I know that's right.
All right, before we move on from this specific thing, I do need to know, Clinton, was there a moment in time when you were watching Priest do his thing and you were on the opposite sideline that maybe just for a second you were like, Coach, put me in at DB, I got this?
No.
Not at that level. He gonna stay at running back.
If you go back and you watch those games, you look at Priest and Dante Hall, what they did. I think Dante Hall shook our entire defense on one of those plays. You look at Priest, bro, it was like he go out, you like, yeah, boy, I got one up. And he off to the races. You like, man, I'm back up. Like, I gotta top it. So if you look at those games, it was like the game prior to the 5 touchdowns, I had 4 against the Chiefs, but I think Priest had 3. So it was always like, I got to one up him. Like, I got to do better than him. And they had the number 1 offense. So we knew how they were coming. So, it was just always one of those battles. And just out of appreciation, I used to watch Priest at Texas, and I used to think like everybody was Ricky Williams. I'm like, shit, this other back going crazy, So for Baltimore, Kansas City, I always been a Priest Holmes fan. So to have this opportunity to be on the pod, man, it was great, and I appreciate it.
Now, how did it go with you? Let me ask you, Clinton, in terms of signing jerseys, man, for other teammates, for fans, how did you work in that space, man? Was it something that you enjoyed doing, or did you have a way of trying to get up out of it?
Man, I just always had an appreciation for people that appreciated me. So it was I always tell people like it could go 2 ways. We never know the impact we're gonna have on the people we cross paths with. And then we always notice the negative. So in anything, if it's a comment, you could have 1,000 positive comments. It's the one negative comment that stick out. So early on in my career, I just got to that point of I don't know, if this person is hustling me, I'm not signing 20 jerseys, but if I see you repping 2-6, like to me, that's saying this person went out and bought my jersey to support me, to rep me, never knowing if they were going to cross paths with me. And now we finally got this opportunity. I can't ignore you. Like, it's almost like I'm seeking you out just to say, hey, man, you know what? Thank you. Thank you for repping that 2-6. So you had the people that take advantage of it and, oh, man, sign this for my nephew, sign this for my cousin. And you see the little sticker on it. You're like, come on, man, you hustling me. Don't hustle me. So, it's just one of those because we never want to encounter that person who you say no, and now that was really a huge fan. That was really the person that was your biggest fan, that's your biggest adversary, that's always supporting you. And we ruined that opportunity. That happened to me. I had a chance to meet Floyd Tree, and they were like my favorite group, and no one knew who they were. And I was just like in awe, and I meet Floyd Tree, and it's like, man, I'm paying for whatever they got. And like, yeah, it was in DC one night. So I'm like stoked, and it was kind of like they had attitudes and didn't even say thank you. But then after time passed, you realize that was like the night they split. So to me, I lost my favorite R&B group as a fan to something I didn't, have any control over. They were beefing. It had nothing to do with me. So I just try to make people day, man, and be appreciative. Because if you say no, it lasts a lot longer than it is if you say yeah. Now it's, oh man, you trash. I don't like you anyway, or you garbage, or Priest Holmes better than you. Like, so what's the point of that?
I want to ask you about fans specifically. So is there one, when you think about the fans, whether it is of Clinton Portis specifically or a team you played on, that anytime someone mentions fans to you, it's the first thing that pops into your brain, something that impacted you? Maybe it was a conversation you had with one, or maybe it was a quick hello, how you doing? Like, is there one that sticks out in your mind, fan interaction?
Probably one of the 5 times that I checked my mail, my mailbox stayed full when I was with the Redskins. And one day I just so happened, I don't even know what made me go in the mailroom. I just went in the mailroom because Miss BJ was like, Portis, your mailbox is overflowing. It's all over the floor. So I go
Wow.
in and I ended up like picking like 5 letters out of my mailbox out of 500 and actually reading them. You know, in the first letter that I read was from a family saying thank you for doing the costumes. It was the week after I did, you know, like the week after I did the first costume, and I was done with it. And it was like, thank you, like you brought joy to our family. Our grandmother was sick, and you know, we come in the house, you know, everybody was kind of preparing mentally to lose her, and she had been moping around and hadn't really been herself over recent months. And we come in the house and she's laughing at the TV because of you bringing her joy, you know, or because of you wearing the costumes. And that stood out because, you know, like if I wouldn't have went in the locker room, I mean, I wouldn't have went in the mail room, I wouldn't have grabbed that letter. Maybe the characters we never get, you know, like that letter impacted me to continue the characters because I didn't know who I was affecting, along with us having a winning streak and my teammates buying in. Like it was a lot of things that fell into place to make that happen.
Nice. And Priest, did you ever go down to the mailroom like that? Like
No,
in
I never went to the mailroom. There's a couple of things I never did have a chance to go to, and that was also being drafted. So, you know, of course, I was an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
lots of things and different experiences I didn't have. But I know one particular one I want to talk to you, Clinton, about is the Denver Broncos, and then, of course, you being selected in the second round, 51st picked overall. Take me back to that day, man. What was that experience like? How did it feel?
Man, you know, it was almost like I went undrafted as well because I wasn't at the draft. I actually was having a draft party to get together at the house, and you know, doing my recruiting process or doing the visit process. I'm telling everybody like, man, bro, I was supposed to go top 5, like top 3. You know, like if you're gonna get me, you got to trade up with the Detroit Lions. I think it was the Houston Texans, Carolina Panthers, Detroit Lions. And I really felt like I'm going at 3, you know, and I can remember the Falcons owner kind of laughing in my face, like, kid, where do you really think you're going to go? I'm like, you got to trade up with Detroit to get me, you know, and them having a puzzled look like this kid can't be serious, you know, but I was. And, you know, we go through the first round. Coach Davis go and draft William Green, running back from Boston College, over me, you know, and Atlanta come up and draft TJ Duckett over me, and the Carolina Panthers select Deshaun Foster over me, you know, in the second round. So after that, after the Carolina pick, I'm like, man, the hell with this. Wherever I go, like it's on. And I left the
Nice.
house, you know. I left the house heading to Tallahassee, and it seemed like it was 3 hours later, but Tallahassee was only 2 hours, 2.5 away from Gainesville. So it might have been like an hour into the ride. My phone, Aurora, Colorado. And I looked like, Aurora, Colorado, you know, what's up, you know? And it was the Broncos saying they were turning my name in. So to this day, I still haven't seen it. I still haven't watched that draft. Like I've never seen the Broncos turn my name in or the reaction. Like it was just one of those. I remember being on the call with Coach Shanahan, and I'm like, bro, I'm gonna win Rookie of the Year. Like, Coach, I promise you, I'm not gonna let you down. And him like, hey, you know, we're not worried about the accolades. Just come be the best player you could be. We're, you know, we had you as #1 on the board. We're surprised you dropped to us. And I'm like, well, if you had me at #1 on the board, why you didn't draft me in the first round? He was like, kid, just be happy we drafted you. So
Well, Clinton,
Yeah, Clinton was
it ended
giving it
up
to him,
working out.
boy.
he was. Well, of those 4 running backs, him being the 4th selected, he's the only one to make the Pro Bowl. So
That's right.
there you go.
More yards than all of them combined, more knockouts than all of
Look,
them
he
combined,
knows. He
more
knows he's been
touchdowns
waiting
than
for this
all of them
moment.
combined, more
That's right.
receptions than
Talk
all
it,
of them
talk it,
combined.
talk it.
Keep going. Keep going.
Hey, bro, you know,
Offensive
like
Rookie of the
for
Year.
my first 2-3 years, well, my first 2 years in the league, like that really drove me. Like I had it was personal with every team we played. Like it was personal. That you all like passed me over. So I wanted to punish everybody.
Breaking news from Bet365. New customers, Priest, $5. You just bet that and you can get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. So sign up, place a bet for $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose.
Bonus bets can be used on the spread, player props, futures, and so much more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365.
Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, and Virginia. Or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 21 plus only. 18 plus in Kentucky. Please gamble responsibly, and you must be present in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, and Kentucky, as well as Louisiana and select parishes. Maryland, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, and Virginia. $10 minimum deposit required. Terms and conditions apply. In-app only. Well, there's one team that he liked to punish a lot. We're going to have to talk about it.
We might have been on the receiving end on some of those.
Yeah, what is up with you and the Kansas City Chiefs? Now, you mentioned before you're a big fan of Priest, Dante Hall, everything they got going on over there. But, dude, 4 touchdowns in one game, 5 touchdowns in another. What was it about playing Kansas City that was just different for you?
I'm telling you, they had the number 1 offense. They had they had Priest, they had Dante Hall, they had Tony Gonzalez, T. Rich back here. Like, bro, we used to be in awe of their offense. And just to have that challenge, like, I knew I had to show up. You know, in my battle back then, because you had LT in San Diego, you had Charlie Garner in Oakland, and Priest, you know, in KC. So it was like, man, the best back, you know, whoever performs the best in the game gonna win, you know? Like, so for me, it was always personal. Like, every last one of those games was personal. And I had never met Priest a day in my life, but it was like, bro, he ain't better than me. Like, I gotta show him I got it, you know? And to watch them and how they move, and you like, I'm looking at the toss crack coming, and you thinking Willie Roaf pulling and all these guys and Tony Richardson in the backfield. Damn, they got a luxury over there, you know?
Right.
So it was just that competition, like saying, no matter what, bro, I got to have more yards than him, you know? And I think for us in that division at that time, we all ignited each other, because even when we weren't playing, I had to see what they were doing, and it motivated me.
Yeah, even playing at that level, and I'm thinking about even going to y'all's stadium. It was just something about going to Denver, you know, getting acclimated. I don't know how long it took you to get acclimated coming from Florida, but every game, it seems like when we came to Denver, I would tell my offensive linemen, make sure you go out during the pregame, get acclimated as much as you can, get out there, get up a lather, get a sweat going on, because once it's game time, the Broncos, they coming out hard. They coming out hard. And it would be sometimes the third quarter where for some of the linemen were catching their breath. You know what I mean? It's like the first 2 quarters, they weren't even there. But one place I loved to play them was in Arrowhead. I'd much rather play the Broncos in Arrowhead than to go to their town.
Gotcha. I mean, that altitude's no joke. I mean, it must feel like you're playing 2 games.
Not only 2 games,
as a visitor.
About 3 or 4.
3 or 4.
You come out during halftime, and either you've already by that time decided to be like, okay, I'm getting acclimated, you know, and now maybe we can get something going in that third quarter. But if any of the guys was back there getting oxygen and putting the mask on, you say, oh, it's going to be a long third and fourth quarter. So how did you be able to get acclimated as fast as you were able to?
Man, it didn't happen fast. Like, and I used to have bad nosebleeds and stuff back then. So early on when I got out there, like the nosebleeds, like I could just wake up and be in a puddle of blood. But once I did get acclimated, it was like I never got tired in Denver. Like once it finally like got into my system, bro, I could just run. Like, and I'm talking about I probably could have went out and ran the mile and competed because I was never tired. So you put that along with the speed, and you know, like teams used to try to come out a day earlier to get acclimated when they probably should come as late as possible, so it's not in your system. So everybody used to try to come like Friday so they could be used to it on Sunday, and that was a bad idea. Like you probably should have came late Saturday night, and then y'all could have just played through. So I'm giving away that tip.
I was just gonna say, man, don't worry, we'll bleep the whole thing out.
I used to love to come to Arrowhead, bro. Coming to Kansas City, we would go to Peachtree was the first stop. Like we go to Peachtree to eat. Shannon Sharp would always set us up with a little limo ride to y'all little spot downtown. So we would go hit that fresh off the plane before our team meetings. And then, I tell people all the time, the best game that you can go to, and this was before Mahomes, like the best game and atmosphere you can go to, I always thought was Kansas City, and the second one being Seattle. Like as far as being amazing to play, like you just like, boy, like I'm here, and that was Kansas City for me. So to see what they had going on back then. Now with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, I know it's even crazier. I would love to go out for a game.
Yeah, it is crazy.
It is crazy. There's no doubt about it. High decibel levels for sure. Just like in Seattle too. It's the stadium design to hold all those decibels in. Well, despite setting, and this is crazy, Priest, and you kind of experienced this in a little bit as well. Despite setting 18 Broncos franchise records, right, and averaging 5.5 yards per carry at your time in Denver, you got traded. What happened there? Like, what were the circumstances? How did you feel? If you were already upset about being drafted as the fourth running back, how did you feel when you had to leave Denver?
Man, like it happened so quick. It was so unexpected. Like everything happened so quick after my rookie year. I thought I had outplayed my deal, and I go in to talk to Coach Shanahan. He's like, man, I can tear up your contract right now. After this season, you're going to be back in here. Like, we're going to have to rip it up again. Like, he says, you could be the first running back to get a $20 million signing bonus. I think at the time it was Curtis Martin who had got 11 or 12 million, and that was the highest. So Coach Shanahan said that in our exit meeting, and I got up, shook his hand, like, okay. After the season, I never even talked to him. It just so happened, I had switched agents to Drew Rosenhaus. I was at Pro Bowl. I did an interview with Adam Schefter at Pro Bowl. And, I do this interview. He's asking me about holding out and all this. I'm like, man, I don't know nothing about that. You got to talk to my agent. Like I plan to be here. I don't know anything about it. And, we're all sitting at the bar at Pro Bowl. And I think it was Peyton Manning to my right, Peyton Manning, Joy Porter. To my left, it was Donovan McNabb, and maybe we had one more person out there. Maybe it was Hines Ward. I'm not sure. We sitting out here drinking Mai Tais. I'm just like in awe. Like, man, I'm sitting next to Peyton Manning drinking. I'm 21, like I'm turned, and we're sitting at the bar and like ESPN, like breaking news. And I remember them like, who got in trouble? Like who done got in trouble? What's the breaking news? So everybody waiting for it to come back up. And when it pop up, the headlines like Portis request trade. So they look at me, shit. I'm looking like, who is Portis? I didn't request no trade, like. So it was kind of Adam Schefter wrote Coach Shanahan books. So Shefty kind of flipped the conversation, duped me into the conversation, and that broke, and maybe 2 weeks later, a week or two later, you had Combine up in Indy. You had Combine up in Indy, and Drew called me like, hey, they're going to allow us to seek a trade. I'm like, what? Like still in shock, not realizing they were doing it just to see who would, who would take the bait. If it was a market for a running back to get paid. Like that number came from Coach Shanahan, not me. Like Coach Shanahan set the bar for me. So once everything happened, Coach Shanahan called and was like, hey man, we're willing to pay you. But we let it go too far. We was really trying to see what the market was. And, now that we see someone is willing to do it, we're willing to pay you. And if you want to go, like, cool. If not, we want you here. And it was just like, me being in my feelings, like the only place I would go to was Washington. They didn't have a first round pick. They traded their first round pick the year of my draft. So that was the only team that I felt like didn't pass over. And that was the one team interested. They had Coach Gibbs coming in, and like the rest was history, you know. And then I got traded for Champ Bailey. Like, who could say that? Like, I got traded for Champ Bailey. So just to be a part of that and have that opportunity to go to Washington, man, and kind of to be able to play with Sean Taylor and Santana Moss, like that was probably the highlight of my career, along with all my other teammates. You know, you talk about Chris Samuels and LeVar Arrington and Marcus Washington. Like, I had some great teammates. Believe in Denver. Like, I tell people all the time, Shannon Sharp, Rod Smith, Al Wilson, Brian Greasy, Eddie Mack. Like, bro, I played with Ed McCaffrey. You know, like having that luxury, Dan Neal, Tom Nalen, like having that luxury to play with vets that were like that close, and to see, I thought the entire league was gonna be like that. So I get to DC, it was like, what? Like, what the, you know? So we ended up turning it around the following year. Coach Gibbs had done an excellent job of just getting everybody to buy in, and we just had a hard-nosed, physical, downhill team. Like, it was like, hey, bro, I need you to run through a brick wall. No problem. I'll do it. So that was a change, but bro, it was exciting. Like that whole time, that whole era, like we had so many backs. Our backs go to the Pro Bowl now. Man, I'm fighting 4 backs in my division, let alone the rest of the league. Like, boy, who gonna come out of this division and represent the AFC? So it was a great challenge. Everybody look at it like, oh man, you only went to 2 Pro Bowls. Like, bro, you know, I had Priest and LT in my division. I had Edge and Corey Dillon and Curtis Martin and Marshall Faulk. Like, man, you know who I'm going up against. It is what it is.
I know that's right. You know, you also mentioned a familiar name with one of your linemen, Dan Neal. You know, Dan Neal and I, we were in college together at the University of Texas. And so Dan was the type of lineman that when you talk about getting out on the perimeter, boy, that joker could get out there quick and get on that perimeter fast, you know? And so I like linemen like that. You know, I don't know if your experience was the same, but man, there's a few linemen like I had, like you mentioned, Willie Rofe, Will Shields, Brian Waters, Casey Wigman, some of my offensive linemen. I know you got a few favorites, man, during your time playing.
Man, Will Shields was my favorite. Your lineman was my favorite. Will Shields and William Rowe. Bro, I used to look like, man, dog, look at the line he got, you know. But like I said, Tom Nalen, Dan Neal, we ended up getting George Foster in the draft my second year. Like, you look back at it, like you don't realize the luxury that you had at the time because you were in it, you know. To have a Rod Smith, to have Shannon Sharp, like to have those guys, you don't realize like what you're in. And then, you know, I left and went to Washington, got Chris Samuels. You know, that's one of my favorite people, one of my favorite teammates as well. So it was just one of those, bro, you make do with what you got. Don't complain about what you don't have. What we got, let's make it work.
That's right. Good
stuff. All right, Clinton. It's time to get to our Mount Rushmore of RBs from your perspective. So give me your top 4 running backs all time and why. I know it's tough to cut it off at 4, but let's, yeah.
So my top 4. This is my top 4.
That's
this
right.
has nothing to do with
we're asking you. We're asking you.
They can land wherever they land.
I got you. So of course, Bo Jackson, Bo knows.
Okay.
Everybody, Bo Jackson. Barry Sanders, the best I ever seen. And then because I was a Saints fan, and he shouldn't even be in this conversation, but because I was a Saints fan in all, Dalton Hilliard was my favorite player growing up as a kid. So Dalton Hilliard was like my favorite player. And just to see what he did with the Saints, it was like, oh man, like that's Dalton Hilliard, you know, like that's who I like. But along with Dalton Hilliard, the next one, it's hard not to go. It's hard to overlook what Marshall Faulk did for the game. You know, and people don't talk about it and give him his credit, but man, Marshall was a bad man. So to see them just saying all time or impact on my career, and Fred Taylor, that's who else. So I used to see Fred Taylor because I grew up in Gainesville. So seeing Fred Taylor in college and how fast he was, I'm like, bro, this man, like, this is a grown man, you know. So for me, I would say that. And then that luxury I had at the University of Miami, when we remove all the people that I don't know, which those were the people that I don't know, to go. I had Frank Gore, Willis McGahee, and Edgerrin James right at the University of Miami. So
That's
they would
insane.
always
Yeah.
be on my wall, you know.
Very
Like,
special backs. There's
That
some
is
good
yeah,
backs.
you can't
that is
take them away.
just like any college would be lucky to have one of those.
I know that's right.
You know? But
Yeah.
wow, man, that's insane. And I love that you shouted out Dalton Hilliard. I respect that. I
Yeah.
love that. That's your guy.
My
That's your
favorite
guy.
player.
That's
That
your
was my
guy.
favorite player
Okay.
growing up, man.
Are there any running backs in today's game that remind you a little bit of yourself? Like, do you see anybody out there kind of doing it the way you did? Maybe you influenced them and you can kind of see it.
I like some of the backs, you know, like I love, like, bro, I did not think Jacobs was gonna be that cold that with the Raiders. You know, he had something, but what he's showing in Green Bay, like, I'm a fan, you know. Of course, everyone loves what Saquon brings to the game, but you know, like, looking at those guys in comparison, like, who do you say they are? Like, was Saquon better than Marshall Faulk? You know, like, was Christian McCaffrey better than Marshall Faulk? You know, they're good players, they're good kids, but would you swap them for what we have, you know, or what we had in our era? So, like, just as a fan, I always like to watch the young guys like Hampton, Amari Hampton, out in San Diego. Like, I love to see young guys burst onto the scene and how they carry it. McNichols up in Washington now, Krosky married. Like, I'm more excited to see how these young guys develop or what they develop into, instead of saying, like, oh man, this is my guy because it's Saquon Barkley that's with one of the best O-lines in football and one of the best teams in football. Like, who's going to elevate their team to the next level?
Yeah, you got that right. And so you mentioned the name Marshall Faulk. You know, he really opened up the doors for a number of backs, especially the backs that were coming in with a different stature than the backs that were known in the AFC East. So we had not Marshawn Lynch, but we had Jerome Bettis, Eddie George, Fred Taylor. We talked about Fred Taylor as well. You know, incredible backs, but they were on the bigger size. But when you had Marshall Faulk come in the game and he had the ability to play inside, get on the perimeter, take a 5-yard pass and go 70 yards and have that ability to catch the ball
too. Yeah.
You know, and he had 1,000 yards receiving and 1,000 yards rushing. So, you know, definitely Marshall Faulk is one of those special backs as well, you know, that opened the door for backs that came after him that had that ability to stay in the game all 3 downs.
Yeah. And, you know, he fits in that category of game changer. Like you said, it's if you were to compare running backs of today to a Marshall Faulk impacted the game. He had a greater impact in the game. I'm not going to argue with you on that. That's for sure. All right, Priest. I got to say, doesn't matter the sport, doesn't matter the moment. It's never ordinary when it comes to Bet365. And it's time for our Bet365 segment here. We're going to make some predictions. We're going to check in on this Kansas City Chiefs versus Washington Commanders game, which is taking place on Monday night. We got some Monday night football action for the Chiefs this week, which is really cool. But before we get into all that, we got to check our receipts at the door, my friend. You know, we made some predictions last week, and I'm not going to lie, we were pretty awesome. And I'll start with you. You said this game was going to be the under, and your Chiefs not only kept it under, but they shut out the Raiders 31-0, man. What was your biggest takeaway from that game?
Well, biggest takeaway is that the ball was being spread around. It almost seemed like everybody was getting opportunity to get a catch in that game and participate in it as well. Pacheco, specifically, you know, he definitely showed up. He didn't have that receiving touchdown that I anticipated, but he definitely ended up in the end zone.
That's true. And he ended up being the beast of the week between the two running backs in that game. I thought Jonty was going to show out. He's their everything and their all time. And look, the Chiefs defense, they must have heard you during our live show because they've been playing really well lately.
Yeah, well, I talked about, Jonte, it's a very hard start for him to get started this season. And so he's had a couple of games where he's had some success, but for the most part, it's been hard for him to get to that second level, get to the linebacker level and to be productive and do the thing that he does best, and that's use his leverage and his size to get outside of the defense. But, it's one of those things that where the defense answered the call. I think the Chiefs stood up and they were ready. It's so many things that you can talk about and takeaways from that game, but one in particular is the way, like I said, as many players that participated that got into the end zone.
That's right, including I don't want to name any names. Should I name a name, Priest? What did I predict?
I think you predicted him. Yes, I think you predicted him. So I'm here to say that you were correct in that Rashid Rice would score over 2 touchdowns, or at least 2 touchdowns, which he did.
That's right. 2 touchdown prediction. I don't know. I just felt it in my bones. It was a coming out party. Look, he was antsy. He'd been waiting 6 weeks. He was due. He was excited to get back out on that field, and he sure did score 2 touchdowns. So, hey, we did all right. We're checking our receipts at the door.
Well, check this out, Mark. So, in particular, one thing that I have to say, I commented on Rashid just for the fact that he's been out for the first 6 to 7 games, right? First 6 games, he's out. He's getting a chance. He's hungry. He's anticipating getting the opportunity. We know he's going to be at a different level in terms of his speed, his conditioning. He hasn't been hit. He has the ability to come in here and walk like he just showed up, right? Well, one thing in particular on one of the goal line runs that he had for a touchdown, you remember when he got face masked and he just ripped through that face mask and scored the touchdown. Yeah, and that's what you talk about, guys that have been rested and they get a chance to now play against guys that's been playing for 6 weeks. You can see a difference in their power and their speed.
That's right. And who needs a face mask? I'm getting a touchdown, said Rashid Rice. That's right. And, the craziest stat to me before we move on here is that the Kansas City defense held the Raiders to 3 first downs. That's it. The entire game. 3 first downs.
It's been tough for the Raiders. I can definitely say that. And then, as far as their running game, they've tried consistently, the Raiders, to give Jonte the ball. But it's one of those things where, he's a young guy. He's only 21 years of age. And, he's stepping on the field with some grown men. And those 1-2 steps that you had in college that just giving you that second opportunity or that burst of speed, it'll come. I think it will definitely come after the first season. But right now, I think the defense for the Chiefs, they've stood up and they're taking care of business.
Well, I couldn't touch my toes at 21, so he's in the NFL doing his thing. All right, let's look. The past is the past. Let's move forward. Monday Night Football. The Chiefs playing host to the Washington Commanders. Here's the interesting thing about football, right? Outside of a team's division, you don't play the rest of the teams in the NFL that often. So if you had to guess, how many times do you think Washington has played Kansas City? How many times?
It was almost like when I played in the league and we had to face the Buffalo Bills. It's one of those teams that we didn't face very often. So if I was to guess.
How many times do you think?
Maybe a handful, just a handful, 5 or 6 times.
Okay, 5 or 6. It's more than that. 11 times these two teams have played in the team's history. So you're not super far off. I mean, but 11 games isn't that many games.
It is.
How many times do you think the Washington now Commanders have won this matchup out of the 11 games? How many times do you think they were the victors over the Chiefs? I'm hitting you with some trivia.
I'm saying 2 to 3 times. Yes. Yeah, 2 is my number. But 2's my number. I'm saying 2 to 3 times.
They weren't even that good. 1 victory for the Washington franchise. Yes, over the Chiefs.
Yeah, well, we'll take that. That means the Chiefs have been rolling on those guys,
Yes, 10 wins for the Chiefs, man. It's been pretty crazy. And the most recent time they faced off, let's see, October 17th, 2021, so 4 years ago. And we're gonna have a little fun here. We're gonna flash back before we make our predictions here in this Bet365
what do you got for me?
365 segment. All right, Priest. As everybody knows who's watching this particular episode, our guest, Clinton Portis, right,
yes,
played for the Washington Redskins, now Commanders, and you two faced off on October 16th, 2005 at Arrowhead Stadium in front of 78,000 plus. Okay, do you remember this game? 2005,
God.
October. Okay, but I'll paint the picture a little bit more. Both teams were 3-2 heading into this Week 6 matchup. Okay, so this was a pretty big game. I'll give you Portis' stats first. You ready?
Okay, give it to me.
Okay, he had 70. He finished the game with 77 rushing yards, no TDs, averaged 3.67 yards a rush, and his longest run was 13 yards. Now, he did have.
Now, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. 13 yards. I cannot buy that. Clinton Portis, his longest run was 13 yards in 2005.
His longest run that game was 13 yards. However, he had 51 receiving yards, no TDs, and his longest reception was for 23 yards. So he was playing more of a receiver that game, it seems, than a rusher. Now, any of this coming back to you? Do you want me to give you some of your stats?
Yeah, well, you can give me my stats, but it looked like the defense definitely showed up on that day.
That's right. That's right. And let's see. Priest Holmes, you were splitting time with Larry Johnson. Okay. You had one more rushing attempt than he did. Okay. You only finished with 18 rushing yards, but you did get in the end zone. Okay. And let's see. Your longest run was 9 yards. You only averaged 1.29 yards during that game.
How many carries? How many carries? How many attempts did I have in that game?
I got to go back. It was either 13 or 14. You two split. Yeah. I think you had one more rushing attempt than Larry. Now, here's the payoff. You ready for this?
Well, before you say that, that's very low production, by the way. You know, that is not characteristic of Clinton Portis or myself.
Or
so we definitely, you know what? That must have been one of those games where the defense just was stout. Certainly, there had to have been turnovers for a game to look like that for the rushing side of the stats. But you know, I don't know. I don't know what happened that game. I'm glad I don't remember it.
Well, here's what happened, and it was pretty big. Okay. Let's talk about your receiving yards that game, Priest. You had 100 receiving yards. You were the top receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. You scored a touchdown, and you averaged 20 yards a catch. Your longest reception was the game-winning touchdown 60-yarder. Is this coming back yet?
Now I remember that. I think I cut it.
Yeah.
You know, Mark, I think I do remember that particular touchdown to win the game. I actually ended up catching the ball, I believe, on the left side of the field. And at some point during that run, I cut back, made a couple of defenders miss, and ended up springing all the way to the right side. So you start on the left side of the field and you ended on the right pylon of the goal line. It was one of those victories for us.
Okay, so we got to credit you with 80 yards then. If you ran across the field, this isn't a 60-yard run.
That's right. You got to add those 30 yards that I ran laterally.
That's right. Now this resulted in ultimately what was the game-winning touchdown. Chiefs won the game 28-21. It was back and forth. The Chiefs scored 2 field goals for their first 2 scores of the game, and then a 2-point conversion happened so that you could bring it back to the 7-point scoring system, and ultimately that catch and touchdown was the game winner, Priest. So look, I buried the lead, but you had a heck of a game, man. 100 receiving yards, my friend.
Yeah, now this is before Clinton Portis. You know, if you go all the way back to 2001, I believe that was just my first season with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think it might have been the 3rd or the 4th game. I believe maybe the 4th game. And I finally got those carries. T. Rich and I kind of talked about that in terms of the first 2 games. T. Rich had more carries than I did, and he was the fullback with his hand in the dirt. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on, here in Kansas City? But then, of course, what happens, T. Rich goes and politics for me and says, we got to get Priest the ball. And immediately after that, the next game we play the Washington, and you won't believe those stats. You got to go back to 2001, man. Bring those stats up. But I do like that.
We'll take those up. But this was a heck of a game, man. Heck of a game.
Yes, indeed.
You scored 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing, 1 receiving. You were the top receiver, pretty wild, and scored the game-winning touchdown. So cool memory there.
Yeah, but you know what? It's this, Mark. However you can get past 100 yards, whether as a running back, we always know that. We prefer to have 100 yards rushing. But, hey, if you get the 100 yards receiving, it's still 100. It's 100 yards on the day.
You didn't even need to have any rushing yards that game. You got 100 receiving. That's pretty amazing. All right, let's get into the prediction portion of this. And the reason I brought up this particular flashback is because the Chiefs happen to be playing the Commanders this week, and we've got Clinton Portis on. So let's just jump right in here. Washington Commanders. A lot of injuries going on that side of the coin. The Chiefs are firing on all engines. They're finally over 500. They're sitting pretty right now. Mahomes instantly back into the MVP conversation. To your earlier point, they're spreading the ball around. I think you might get a touchdown this weekend. I don't know.
If they can throw a pass clearly to San Antonio, Texas, I might be able to catch it and run with it. Other than that, they better keep those balls inside of Arrowhead Stadium.
Yeah, let's keep them inside Arrowhead. Okay, who's winning this game? Let's just start with that. Who's winning this game? Chiefs are at home.
Yeah.
Commanders are struggling.
The Commanders are struggling, and with the number of injuries that they have, both sides of the ball, I think the injuries came early for the Chiefs, also the suspension to Rice. The team is back, and it's firing all cylinders, like you had mentioned. So, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I think this is an opportunity for them that, they say, if a man's down, you might as well kick him. So I think they're going to kick the Washington Commanders while they're down with injuries, and take advantage of it, obviously.
Is that going to be your advice at the end of this episode?
Not my advice to the youth. If a man's down, kick him. But in football terms, if you got a guy down, you keep him down. You don't let him up. You know what I mean? And if they've got injuries, so be it. They're going to be firing on all cylinders. And I think Rashid Rice is going to have another amazing game because he's still healthy. He's healthier than the entire team's put together.
Do you remember? I'm going to sidebar here for a second. Do you remember a particular time you entered the end zone stepping over somebody? Like you saw him on the ground and you didn't go around him, you purposely went over him? Did you do that?
Oh, there was a couple of times where I went over, dove over them, jumped over them, leaped over them. Tried to do my Superman impersonation. But
Even if you didn't have to? Even if you didn't have to, you did it anyway?
Yeah, if I had to.
Having some fun.
Put the cleats on them. You know how that goes. Hey, that's a question we could definitely ask. We could definitely ask Beast Mode when we get him on the podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
Would you go around, or are you going to just step on the guy and get him through the end zone? I think we're both stepping on him.
Yeah, I feel like we both know the answer to that. Okay. Let's get in the weeds here a little bit, okay? Winning margin. So you got the Chiefs winning this game. How many points do you think they win by?
Oh, man.
Despite the spread, just how many points do you think they're going to win by? Coming off a 31-0 game.
Yeah, coming off of a 31-0 game, I think the Chiefs is definitely excited about that. All the guys, all the receivers, Thornton, Brown, Rashid Rice, Juju, I mean, they're all excited about getting those passes. And, of course, you can't take away Kelsey, which he didn't end up in the end zone, like we normally think he would, right?
Still has 3 to go.
Yeah. He's got 3 to go to actually break my record, and excited to see him do that. But let's see, how many points will the Chiefs score or win by?
Win by. What do you think the margin's going to be?
I think by 14.
Okay. Oh, so 14. Wow, 14 or 14. Above. Okay. Wow, 14.
Yeah, 14
okay,
or above.
Cool. It's so hard to predict scores, man. It's impossible.
It is.
I mean, who would have guessed 31-0 against nil? Look at me, I'm talking soccer. 31-0. Okay, next question for you. Both teams will score at least how many points? Both teams. Will both teams cross the 10-point threshold? So Chiefs, obviously, they're going to win this game. Let's say they cross 10. Does Washington also cross 10?
Yeah, I think both teams will cross 10. I think the Commanders are desperate right now. Obviously, they've been riddled with the injuries that they have, but they're going to have to answer the bell, and they're going to have to get at least 7 points and a field goal. So getting 10 points, I think, is definitely doable for both teams.
Okay, what about 15? I'm gonna push this up the ladder.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think 15 points, but definitely the Chiefs will be scoring over 15 points.
Okay,
I think
so
they're on a roll.
Chiefs over 15. All right, so
yes.
Washington's not going to score more than 10 points. Okay, this one's a little fun. What's going to be the outcome of each team's first drive? Let's start with the Commanders. Whenever they get the ball, they might get the ball first, they might get the ball second. When they have the ball, are they going to get a touchdown, a field goal? Are they going to have to punt? Or are they turning the ball over? What do you think?
I'm saying Commanders is going to punt on their first possession.
Drive.
Yes.
I'm with you on that. What about the Chiefs? What do they do
Chiefs,
on their first
I'm saying,
drive?
I think they're going to get 3 points. Yeah, I'm giving them 3
3?
points.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm giving them 3 points.
I
I'm not
was
gonna jump out there and say 7 points because again, I think that with the Commanders, they're desperate. They're definitely gonna have to have a decent defensive game and definitely look to have some defensive stops early in the game. So if they can do that, if it happens, it'll happen early because once halftime comes, I think that's when the Chiefs is going to take full advantage of the Commanders.
Andy Reid's just going to be in. Let's flip the switch. Game on.
And I think we're going to have a lot of those misdirection plays that Andy Reid loves to do, loves to call up on the offensive side of the ball, and I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I thought Rashee Rice was going to get one of those. There was that pitch forward in the Raider game, and I was like, man, this guy's going to get 3 touchdowns in the first half. But unfortunately, there was a flag on that play. Okay, let's see, will each team score in both halves? All right, and it's funny this question comes up now because you just mentioned second half it's going to be all Chiefs, all Andy Reid. So do you think both teams score in each half?
Both teams score in each half. Let's see.
So the Chiefs, we think the Chiefs
I think
are
it's
going to
doable.
get a...
Yeah, I think it's doable. Yes.
Okay, so both
teams will score in
each
both
half.
halves. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I definitely think the Commanders is going to get a field goal, in that first or second quarter.
Okay, all right. Let's see. Final score prediction. What do you got? So we're doing some math here. The Chiefs got to win by 14. That's what you said. And if you think the Commanders are going to at least get 10 points, is that final score 24-10?
24-10? Oh, you've got a field goal in there. That's why.
Yeah. That's well, you told me they got to win by 14, and if the Commanders are getting a field goal, Chiefs could get a field goal. Well, look, they could score 4 touchdowns. It could be 28-10. Right?
Yeah, I don't think Rashee Rice is done, and Pacheco definitely is hungry. I mean, if you get in the red zone and you get within that 6 or 7 yard of the goal line, I think we're going to see a lot of Pacheco, definitely. Browns mysteriously likes to show up, you know what I mean, when you're not expecting it. Brown comes up with a big reception, a big touchdown.
That's how Hollywood works.
Hollywood does. Yeah, he's pretty exciting, too. He's a fun guy to watch play football as well. Let's see. I don't know, Mark. This is a hard one.
I'm going 27. I'm going to go 27-10.
Let's
say 27-10.
So we're not saying that the Chiefs can score 31 points again, all right? I'm saying they're going over 28. I'm over 28. Yeah, I'm over 28 points for the Chiefs.
31-10?
I think they're on a roll. Yeah, I think they're on a
31-10?
roll. Yeah, I think they're on a roll.
All right. Let's move on from this game, and let's pick Priest's Beast of the Week. And this could be from anywhere. Last week we did it from the Chiefs game. Let's just do full spectrum here. Full NFL, the whole slate. Who's going to be Priest's Beast of the Week in Week 8?
I'm just loving the fact of what Jonathan Taylor is doing with the Colts. He's an exciting player. He had incredible stats coming out of high school. He's done his thing consistently on all levels, collegiate level, high school level. And here he is, without a mistake, he's doing the same thing by leading the league in rushing this year. So I think he has the ability, of course. The Colts are playing very, very well. Also being directed by their quarterback as well. He's actually playing phenomenal also.
Yeah, he found a new home. Yeah,
he really
Jones.
has.
My God.
Yeah,
wow.
Daniel Jones definitely has found a new home, and he's being very productive. So I'm definitely going to go with Taylor.
What is up with you? This isn't the first time you've mentioned a running back on this show with 2 first names. First it was Eddie George, now it's Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor.
You just like running backs with 2 first names? Is that your jam? Is that your
No,
secret sauce?
he's producing, and you can just look at the fact that, like, if as a running back, you're always looking at a running back's feet, his footwork, and that's what I primarily am judging Jonathan Taylor based on his footwork. He has the ability to really get in between the tackles, and he has great footwork, great balance, and we're actually seeing that right now.
Now you got our editor working overtime. He's got to try to find footage of Jonathan Taylor's feet and get him up on the screen.
Yeah. Let's do some footwork. Get him doing some ladder drills. We'll see how consistent he is in tight places.
Nice.
But that just kind of takes me back also, Mark, to one of the players that had one of the unfortunate. I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. Remember when Mitchell Adane? He's from the University of Texas as well. He was going in, phenomenal opportunity to get his touchdown for this time of the year. He gets a foot away from the goal line and reaches out with the ball, and the ball comes out.
Yes. Nothing more painful for a running back. Nothing more painful.
Yeah, so it's one of those situations where, you really have to learn from those types of mistakes, I don't think he's really had an opportunity to really battle back from it. I think that one of the things that he has done is that he's had an opportunity to kind of look back at that particular mistake. There was something interesting that happened. There was a class of students that actually the teacher used that as an example. They called it the Mitchell mistake. And yes, the Mitchell mistake. But this is what happens, right? This was actually something that was taught in school and asked, like, if you make mistakes, what is it that you can do to overcome them? So AD Mitchell, he actually goes to the school and he actually talks to the students about the Mitchell mistake. Yeah. So one of the things that he ended up doing was saying, hey, he admitted to the mistake of what happened. Obviously being a little bit careless, didn't realize it, got probably so excited about scoring that first touchdown this season that, of course, the ball pops out. But, it's one of those learning mistakes that he has to learn from. But I think the thing that made the biggest difference for him is that he was able to go in front of those students and admit to the opportunity that, hey, I messed up. I should have been protecting the ball. I should have went all the way into the end zone and made the touchdown before I started to celebrate. But he was excited. And like I said, it's one of his first touchdowns. So I can imagine how excited he was. But that's one mistake that he's never going to forget. But I like the fact that he took ownership of it, went to the classroom, and told the students that he learned from it. And he knows, next time he'll be protecting that ball.
Look, Priest, I'm not going to say I'm a petty person because I believe I'm not a petty person. But I would have gone to the classroom just like he did. But I would have come with a list of other running backs making that same mistake, footage in hand, and been like, Why is this my mistake? Come on now. Now, I'll tell you about my particular mess up, but that's really cool. Kudos to him for doing that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I like that.
Yeah, if you can pass on the knowledge, share some wealth, help somebody else be a better player, give back, pay it forward, that's huge. That's definitely huge. Okay, so quick stats on Jonathan Taylor, who you think is going to be Priest's Beast of the Week. 697 yards so far, 10 touchdowns. He's averaging 5.3 yards a carry right now, Priest. And this is the most wild stat so far. He's scored 3 touchdowns in 3 different games already this season. How many do you think he's getting against Tennessee?
Yeah, he's got quite a bit of touchdowns already.
Is he going to get another triple?
Yeah. Well, I don't think triple. Think triple, but I would say 2. I mean, because they definitely are working him. They're giving him the ball, and he's having a lot of success early as well. He's been very consistent also. And so I think he'll continue doing what they're doing. They're winning. The Colts are winning, and they're looking good in their division.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Bet365 segment, right? Because things are never ordinary. It doesn't matter the sport, Priest. We're talking football right now. It doesn't matter the moment either, because everything, when it comes to Bet365, it's never ordinary. Never ordinary.
That's right. That's right, Mark. It's never ordinary with Bet365. So we're excited to be able to, give our predictions and talk football and talk about what's to come. So it's going to be an exciting weekend.
Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, and Virginia. Or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 21 plus only. 18 plus in Kentucky. Please gamble responsibly, and you must be present in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, and Kentucky, as well as Louisiana and select parishes. Maryland, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, and Virginia. $10 minimum deposit required. Terms and conditions apply. In-app only. So speaking of current status, Clinton, let's fill everybody in who might not know what you're up to these days, because you are coaching, right? You've taken your skills off the field, now back sort of on the field, right? So was coaching always in your future? Did you feel like when you were younger, Clinton Portis, you were going to coach someday, or did this kind of just come your way?
Never. It kind of just came my way. I actually came up myself, London Fletcher, Antoine Bethea, Nate Clements. We have a youth league down in Charlotte, North Carolina, where we help kids get into school, called the Carolina Prospects. And I came up to talk to Jack about kids, hey, man, we got all the skill positions, so whatever you need. And it kind of escalated the conversation. And I thought I was coming up to talk about kids. And after the interview, well, after the meeting, he offered the job. Like, I didn't even know I was on the interview. So it was dope because it was like listening to God. Like, I never thought I wanted to coach. I never wanted to coach. I never thought I would be a coach. But on that day, it was like, hey, God telling me, like, bro, this is it. And I remember it was freezing, and I had just, like, I think a storm had just came through. And I'm like, Dover, Delaware. I'm like, oh no, I gotta go talk to the fam, you know. And the more I thought about it, it was just like, you know what? This is the opportunity. And now we had the number one offense in FCS. We're the number one rushing team in FCS. We have three backs, or we have three kids over 300 yards with multiple touchdowns. So we're rolling, you know, just as a team. We let one slip away last week up at Sacred Heart. We were up 14 and got in our own way. So we're back at the drawing board, man, you know, figuring out how to get these kids exposure to get them on to the next level, because these kids deserve that shot. They deserve that opportunity. The talent is there. It's just finding someone to pour into you to get the discipline side of things right, and get you to understand, like, get out your own way. And I think that's what separate the Power Five from the FCS or the lower schools, the HBCUs. But now having these coaches that we have like 6 or 7 coaches that played in the league that's here pouring back into these kids, along with D-Jack, myself. You got Eugene Chung, Emerson Martin, Coach Donovan Warren, Coach Sammy Parker, who played out in Kansas City as well, Priest. So you have coaches that's pouring into these kids, that's kind of giving them the cheat code, if they'll listen, that gives you an opportunity, because all you need is a look. Once you take this logo off and you take the DSU off the jersey, if you put it all in black and white, these kids gonna go out and compete and look just as athletic as the ones at Power Five. So just trying to get them that exposure and get them that opportunity and hopefully get them to the next level.
So, Glenn, you talked about opportunity. I actually have had an opportunity with creating the home stretch, which is a new podcast that I'm currently doing along with Mark, and we've got Bet365 that's actually getting us lots of coverage and backing us. But you also talked about one thing that was very important to me, and you talked about modeling. And so for me, growing up, you know, it was 2 individuals, 2 running backs that I looked at. There was Earl Campbell that I saw on Sundays, and then I saw, of course, Tony Dorsett. So I began to model myself after Tony Dorsett, because I says, hey, he looks closer to my height, what I look like. I can run very similar to the way that he runs. I'm not the size of Earl Campbell. I'm not just running into the A gap and just trying to bust a hole. But for me, thinking that modeling, I'd like to ask you the same question. Now that you're coaching, who are you modeling yourself after? Or is there a coach that you model yourself after?
Man, you know, for me, it would, if I'm thinking of one particular coach, it would be Coach Donnie Solinger, who was my running backs coach at the University of Miami. I call him, I lean on him. He send me information all the time. He texts me weekly just to check in. So for me, it was kind of like, because I feel like I have so much talent in my running back room that I was able to rely on him. Like, coach, you know, like, when you got this much talent, it's really just getting the kid to believe in themselves. You know, other coaches, if a coach don't know how to use you, or a coach think you could do this and want you to do this, but you're not good at it, but you're good at something else. Like, for me, it's just figuring out how to get the most out of you and what you're good at. I'm not trying to expose what you're not good at, but at some point I want to turn you into a complete back. And again, like I said, I have 7 kids in my room. 5 of them play. 6 of them play, actually. 6 of them play. Like, we're rotating. We're coming downhill, fresh legs at all times. I got a couple that's 5'8". I'm putting him in for pass blocking. Like, 5'8", 155, gonna jump into your chin strap. Like, no fear at all.
That's
and
right.
It's just making sure that thing that people thought you couldn't do, that you're willing to do, you know?
Yes.
And for me, when you get that out of players and you get players to understand, bro, you could do whatever you put your mind to. It's a want to, you know, because like Priest, I was one of those, he's too small, he's not fast enough, he's a third down back, you know, he's not an every down back. Bro, I played every down, first, second, third, and I could play fourth down if you needed me to. So just making sure to instill that confidence in them, being honest with them, give them that tough love. And like I said, Coach Dunny Solinger, bro, you had a room with Najee Davenport, Clint Portis, Jared Payne, Willis McGahee, Frank Gore, and you made it work. And all three of them, Frankie G went on to be the third all-time leading rusher ever.
That's
So you made it work. What did you see? How did you trust your instincts? Like how did you know how to use us? And he kind of like, hey, bro, I let y'all go out and be yourself. So that's what I do.
That's good.
Well, let's get a coaching fit check from Clinton. Are you more of like a Tom Landry trench coat, fedora? Are you like a Mike Ditka sweater or a Bill Belichick ripped off sleeves on a hoodie? What's your
I'm
coat?
Bill Belichick.
You are?
I'm Bill Belichick, man. Give me some jogging pants, give me a ripped off sweater, a little hoodie, and let me go do my thing. It don't matter how I look. I just need to be able to get this knowledge that I got in my mind. I can get it out in a suit and tie. I can get it out in jogging pants. So that's what it is. I think my comfort is Bill Belichick. So come out comfortable, and it's not about me. So I don't need to look the freshest. I don't need to be super fly on the sideline. I just need to be able to get this information to the kids, and that's what I try to do.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's about getting that message out, you know, and it seems like that's the way that he approaches coaching. And it doesn't have to necessarily be packaged up any particular way, but if I can get that message to my athletes, you know, that's the way to go. So looking forward to seeing more, man, of what you got going on. I'm excited to see where this coaching is going to take you.
Yeah, I want to see the Clinton Portis coaching tree eventually. You know,
That's right.
It just starts going down, and then someone's going to be telling the story about how you had these 5 backs and then when you made it work. So that's going to be cool. I wish that for you, man. Hope it works.
It's gonna have to start here, man. You know, I think for my backs, the ones that if time expire on them and they don't get an opportunity from the like they told me the other day, they said, Coach, we would rather you yell at us than to look at us and shake your head in disappointment. So I think I got a couple that would definitely, if I was to get another job or to move on, I would definitely bring along with me just because they're smart. They understand the game, and they will be able to help and deliver it the same way that I did. You know, I tell them all the time, like I might walk out of me and tell them to watch film and coach it up as if they were me. And when we come back out, as far as our execution, it gets done. So somehow, some way, I think I'm getting them to listen and buy in.
That's good.
I love that. And it must feel good to be able to deliver those speeches instead of receiving them, especially if you're doing some yelling, right?
Yeah, but I don't really yell. Like if I yell, it catches the whole coaching staff off guard.
Yeah.
Like if you hear me yelling, because I'm just normally, yeah, you know, like it is what it is. But if I start yelling, you might have the whole sideline like, what's wrong with him? You know? So I try to keep the yelling down. Yeah, it don't take all that to get your message through. And again, we got so many backs that if I got to yell at you, come stand beside me. That's what I tell them. Hey, come stand beside me and hold this clipboard so you can keep the stats of what he doing. That get it out of them all the time. They hurry up and snap back.
That's right. You snap back quick.
Yeah.
Get back into that game.
Quick, standing on that sideline.
All right. We always end the show on some advice. So if you have some advice for the young players out there, or a message you want to deliver right now through the home stretch, what would you tell the young players today?
Man, keep going. You don't know how close you are to being first, and if you're first, you don't know how close you are to being last. You know, so keep going, keep fighting, give it your all. Believe in yourself. Like I think it's the confidence. Once you instill the confidence in a kid or in an individual, once you instill confidence in them, it takes them a lot further than tearing them down or than misleading or, you know, yelling or anything else. It's more I don't want to break your confidence. I want you to understand that you can do anything you put your mind to. Let's just go out and get it done, baby. Or else, come over here and hold this clipboard.
I like that.
I love it. Yes.
Hold that clipboard.
We're going to have to get a clipboard for set now.
That's
and,
right.
and if one of us is slack, I'm just going
Pass
to,
it
you
over.
hand me the clipboard when I ask a terrible question.
There you go.
I love
it.
that. Great way to end the show. Clinton Portis, thank you so much. Congratulations on all the success you've ever had. Much continued success. Now I want to see that coaching tree, man. I want to see it come to fruition. I love it. Priest, another good episode in the bag, man.
Another
These
one.
RBs, they're always coming through.
Oh yeah, we handling business as RVs.
Yes, guys are getting it done. All right, for Clinton Portis, for Priest Holmes, I'm Mark Seaman, and our good friends at Bet365 letting us do our thing. We thank you so much for that. Like, subscribe, follow, pay attention to our socials, firing off clips. You'll know who's coming up on the next episode, all that good stuff. But Priest, another one in the bag, man.
That's right. Signing
Always
out.
feels good.
This has been a Playmaker production.